This video is brought to you by and sole property of thefinancialsector.com. July 10, 2013 was the day for all investors to remember. It's the day that the SEC announced that it was lifting its 80-year-old advertising and non-solicitation ban that it had put in place upon its formation in 1933. It's also the day that a party for crowdfunding began. The crowdfunding party will rival the investor party for the World Wide Web, which began after Netscape developed the first commercial web browser and made it available for free in 1995. Netscape's developing and making the first web browser available for free resulted in the hypergrowth of the web population from 16 million at the end of 1995 to over 250 million by the end of 1999. The shareholders of several new companies who emerged to service the web internet population were able to generate dynasty wealth. Yahoo had not generated any revenue when it launched its IPO April 1996. Its shares then appreciated by 205 times from a split-adjusted 53 cents a share to over $108 by 1999. eBay had only 853 users when it launched its IPO in September of 1998 at a split-adjusted 74 cents a share. Its shares in the first 12 months after its IPO multiplied by 36 times in price to over $26. Domain name registrar VeriSign launched its IPO in January of 1998 at a split-adjusted $2.97 per share. By 1999, its shares had multiplied by as much as 54 times in price to over $162. The share prices of companies which were already public when Netscape made its browser available also multiplied. One of the lowest risk internet stock plays was infrastructure provider Cisco, who provided modems and routers to businesses and consumers. On the first day of 1996, its shares were trading at $4. By the end of 1999, its share price had multiplied by as much as 12 times in price to $50.44. AOL's split-adjusted 7 cents per share price on the first day of 1996 was actually below AOL's 1992 IPO price. By the end of 1999, AOL's share price multiplied by 3,251 times to over $227. Each $1,000 worth of AOL shares at the beginning of 1996 appreciated to $3,250,000 at AOL's 1999 high. From the start of 1996 to the end of 1999, the number of web users multiplied by 15 times from 16 million to 250 million. The population of eligible crowdfunding participants is expected to multiply by more than 100 times from 17 million at the start of 2013 to over 2 billion by the end of 2016. The exploding growth of the crowdfunding population is why the crowdfunding party for those shareholders who own crowdfunding investments could potentially not only rival but dwarf the web's party. Facebook's share price at $25.80 was under its IPO price on July 10, 2013, the day of the SEC's announcement. Within 90 days, it had appreciated by more than 100% to all-time new highs. The Dow Jones 30 Industrial Average Composite was flat over the same period. LinkedIn shares were at $188.39 on July 10th. Its share price appreciated by more than 40% to an all-time high within 90 days. The share price of Groupon, another social media company, advanced by as much as 50% to a 52-week high after July 10, 2013. The share price of Yelp, yet another social media company, advanced by 100% to an all-time high after July 10, 2013. The social media exchange-traded fund also went to an all-time new high and appreciated by as much as 45% after the July 10 SEC announcement. It was not just the social media shares that outperformed the market since July 10th. The shares of the leading stock, mortgage rate, bank CD, and real estate information providers also went to 52-week or all-time highs within 90 days after the announcement. The shares of Zillow, the leading provider of real estate information, increased by as much as 80% from $61.32 to over $100 within 90 days of the announcement. The shares of Bankrate, the leading provider of bank certificate of deposit rate information, increased by 30% from less than $18 to over $22. The shares of LendingTree, the leading provider of mortgage rate information, increased by 50% from less than $19 to over $28. The shares of The Street, a leading provider of stock market information, increased by more than 30% from $1.87 to $2.30. The shares of all three of the USA's publicly traded online brokers have also gone to 52-week or 5-year highs since July 10th. Ameritrade has gone to a 5-year high since July 10th. E-Trade shares hit a 52-week high since July 10th. And Interactive Brokers shares have hit a 5-year high since July 10th. What is the common denominator that all of these companies have? All of these companies have a crowd or content which can draw or keep a crowd. Jeff Bezos bought the Washington Post newspaper shortly after the July 10th announcement so that Amazon would have access to its editorial content. Twitter's decision to launch its IPO was to raise the capital needed to fully participate in crowdfunding. The shares of these companies, including Gannett, the owner of USA Today, have also soared to 5-year all-time highs since July 10th. Who has been responsible for driving the share prices of approximately 20 companies to new highs since July 10th? It's the world's biggest financial institutions, who have at least $100 billion in their portfolios. Due to their massive size, such institutions have no choice but to utilize top-down or macro investment strategies to invest in those companies who directly participate in emerging global economic trends. The mega financial institutions want to have investments in all of the public companies already positioned to share in the incremental fees, commissions, and advertising revenue that will soon start to be generated from crowdfunding. By the end of 2013, there will have been 6 governments who have allowed crowdfunding, and all of them were developed countries. When the SEC lifts its last remaining ban, which is anticipated to be during the first half of 2014, the population of eligible crowdfunders will grow from 74 million at the end of 2013 to more than 350 million. Governments of the world's largest developed and emerging countries in Asia, Europe, and South America will quickly follow the USA's lead. The online financialsector.com is projecting that the eligible global crowdfunding population will be 4 billion, or more than slightly 1/2 of the world's projected total population of 7.7 billion by 2018. The 4 billion adult smartphone users represents approximately 90% of Ericsson's projected 4.5 billion smartphones in use by 2018. The online financial sector is projecting that by 2018, the total capital that businesses will raise from the crowd annually will be $3.3 trillion, which is equal to only 1% of the global household personal wealth. The online financial sector projects that more than 90% of all the funds provided by the crowd will come out of savings accounts and will go into interest-bearing securities of the 20 million global businesses who are already established. It's the reason why Google paid $125 million to purchase 8% of the shares of a startup crowd lending company from its existing shareholders at a valuation of $1.5 billion in May of 2013. Assuming a commission of 5%, the fees and commissions could grow to $165 billion per year. Incremental advertising revenue of just 1% would equate to an additional $33 billion per year. Real estate agents in the USA alone, according to Zillow, spend $10 billion per year to advertise property. The total projected $198 billion of fees produced from crowdfunding in 2018 is 2.5 times greater than the $79 billion of combined 2012 revenue generated by the world's 5 largest online companies, including Google, eBay, Facebook, Priceline, and Yahoo. Crowdfunding will be the key driver of world economic growth over the next 5 to 10 years. The replacing of the banks as the middleman will increase income for crowd members and reduce interest expenses for businesses. We are predicting that the major stock market indices will be hitting new highs annually from 2013 to 2018. For the first time in the history of the world, efficient capital markets are being formed for private entities via crowdfunding. Private entities having easier access to and much lower cost of capital in of itself will have a significant economic impact. The end result will be that the liquidity and the valuations of private businesses are going to increase significantly. These factors are going to dramatically enhance global economic growth. It's the same thing that happened when the web arrived on the scene in 1995. History always repeats itself. The Dow Jones is a good example on why history will repeat itself. From 1996 to 2000, the Dow Jones Composite Average had 4 consecutive record annual highs, and the index multiplied by 2.26 times. The S&P 500 hit 4 consecutive record annual highs, and the index multiplied by 2.27 times. The NASDAQ Composite hit 4 consecutive record annual highs, and the index multiplied by 3.8 times. From 1996 to 2000, the DAX Composite went to 4 consecutive record annual highs, and the index multiplied by 2.98 times. The French CAC Composite went to 4 consecutive record annual highs, and the index multiplied by 3.1 times. The United Kingdom's FTSE Composite Index went to 4 consecutive record annual highs, and the index multiplied by 1.89 times. The online financial sector has identified 4 industries who are emerging to support the global crowdfunding movement. They are the crowdfunding portals, which are the intermediaries that will escrow the funds, the crowdfunding infrastructure, which will provide the automated systems and software, the classification systems that will categorize and classify the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of global businesses who will be seeking funding from the crowd, and the crowdfunding tools industry, which will educate the millions of existing businesses and entrepreneurs who are seeking monies from the crowd. The 4 key emerging crowdfunding support industries are identical to those key industries which emerged to support the growth of the Internet between 1996 and 1998. Both have portals, infrastructure, classification systems, and entrepreneurial tool providers. The companies who emerged and IPO'd as leaders of the 4 web industries from 1996 and 98 created dynasty wealth for their shareholders. The 4 companies here, including Yahoo, Cisco, eBay, and VeriSign, generated returns of between 12 and 205 times their IPO prices between 1996 and 1999. When Yahoo launched its April 1999 IPO, it had no revenue. When eBay launched its September 98 IPO, it only had 853 registered users. The private or pre-IPO companies that are emerging and could potentially become the leaders to support the global crowdfunding movement include Crowdcube and Seedrs in the UK, and Crowdnetic, Crowdclear, GFNN, Crowdclassifieds, Tracklight, and Crowdfund Academy, who are in the USA. The online financial sector is dedicated to finding and researching the pre-IPO companies who emerge as leaders in the 4 key industries which support the crowdfunding movement. The online financial sector provides research and information on the industries that are emerging, and also on those already public companies which are in a position to benefit from crowdfunding. Additional information, including videos, research, and recommendations on those industries and companies residing in the online financial sector, including the emerging crowdfunding industries and their public and private members, is available at onlinefinancialsector.com.